which I probably want to verify before repeating too many times, but it's roughly 70 million people within a day's drive of this last little bit of northeastern U.S. and Acadian forest that's dark at night. And by virtue of that, everyone's got their vision for what has to happen, and the SDSS spirit of recognizing that values shade how we weight, say, a hydrologic based climate adaptation versus an insectivorous passerine based climate adaptation strategy. We want input, but at the risk of sounding like egghead elitist, but the tent can definitely get too big, and it just becomes a shouting match. And so, as you know, Ann Ingerson and I have been thinking, well, we want input, but on the other hand, too much of a good thing is no longer a good thing. And so anyway, that's just rehashing what you already know about some of my concerns.
Well, I think the challenge is most of us want a place to have these discussions with other scientists who are really either directly doing the application or are very close to someone who's doing that direct application of the decision support system. But then how far out from that do you go?
Yeah.
If you have a group of maybe a dozen other conservation groups that you're working on with just a handful of key players, it might be pretty easy to build, say, another discussion board or a series of discussion boards around particular issues that might be discussions at a slightly higher level, not quite at the down in the dirty details of the model builder, but how far out do you go from that? And then once you start out moving out into these other groups of people, how far out do you go? I can't say as I've thought this through at all, but I'm real interested in that question and interested in how do we include larger groups of people in a really positive way without opening up a complete Pandora's box that would take you, Pete, completely away from the work you're trying to get done.
Yeah, and I keep, and forgive me if this is a worn-out analogy or metaphor or what have you, but I think of the medical profession and how there really is a role for the general practitioner, and they, the idea is that we want to empower people to make decisions that make sense for them, and the internet has information that can second guess what your general practitioner might be doing, and so on one hand, people should have information, but on the other hand, well, it might take 10 years for someone to get up to speed on interpreting the raw data, so there really is a role for that filter, but then there's the danger of the general practitioner incorporating his or her values into a risk decision analysis when they say, I think you should be on 10 milligrams of lovastatin versus 20. And I haven't thought this through either, but there seems to be some value in thinking about that profession when we're thinking about our own levels of sharing and not sharing. And I like the idea of kind of concentric discussion boards, a discussion board, a discussion group, a collaboratory for the people at the lab bench, and then one layer out for more general consumption. I don't want to become a discussion board manager and lose track of what board I'm talking about or talking on one particular day. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling on. But it's a delicate balancing act. And
would it make sense for us initially to focus on just a couple of those tightest concentric circles and give us the opportunity to branch out as we see we have the facility and capacity to do so? Yeah.
I think I'm thinking, okay, what do we do? What did we train for in this life? What are we about? And we're that circle who is doing the science, but we're also not in a basic laboratory somewhere just doing intellectual candy. We want to apply it, so we're scientists slash messengers. But I think it makes sense for us to work in that inner core and then go out from there. because I just know, I wasn't a part of it, but the state of Maine just elected a Tea Party governor, so to speak, and I wouldn't want to begin to think about getting some of this information out into his inner cadre of people. They just, they think, where they stand on the climate warming, so it wouldn't be. So yeah. Anyway.
Good discussion. I'm going to interrupt for a second because I know that some people have to leave at 10. But that's great. I really love love where you guys are going with this, and I like the idea of the concentric discussion boards, and I also like I'd like to chime in that I think I like what Janice was alluding to, which is maybe in the beginning focus on the tightest concentric circles first, and then branch out as we develop capacity. That does seem to make sense. And then, so I think that what we might want to do is whoever has, Janice, Pete, and whoever else, if you have kind of an idea of what those concentric circles are and what it might look like, and you feel so inspired, just sketch it out on a piece of paper and scan it in and send it to me, or we can talk out offline after 10 o'clock as well to continue that on. I think I also wanted to point out before concluding is that here in our website we have this page started of different online landscape ecology and GIS communities, and I think Heather has identified a way that we can actually turn this into a wiki spreadsheet by linking with Google. So we might actually do that. But the bottom line, though, is I think we need to find some cases where they're actually working together on tool development and seeing how they are basically defining those concentric circles, and then for people that are linking tool development with actual tool implementation. That's interesting. So I think we might want to actually consider that distinction too, because a lot of what you guys were talking about was tool implementation, which is engaging all the stakeholders, identifying what they think are important criteria, getting their opinions and input, and then I think that that's also going to be a little bit different than tool development, which is figuring out how we're going to add different normalization techniques or different optimization techniques.
Yep.
So those would be different concentric circles that might rather than being concentric circles, those might be overlapping circles. So this is great food for thought. Let me break for a minute and allow Christine, and Jed, who kind of are looking at this from the 20,000-foot level, to chime in with any comments or thoughts, kind of at that level.
Hey, John. This is Christina. My thought is I'm feeling a little bit lost. I don't recognize any problem statement in this. I've been looking at the collaboratory website, and there isn't anything on the homepage that really describes what this is about. Is there a place for that? And I also looked through all your past emails, and I see that there's just sort of a general problem statement in that we're all worried that the Earth is failing, or that we're running out of resources. But I don't see a specific problem statement to really run with and work around. So that's my concern, or not concern, but.
That's a great point. Oftentimes we get. I'm so glad you said that, because sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees when you're in it day in and day out. So, yeah, that's a good point. I think one thought for problem statement might be something to the effect of that we have a whole bunch of people that are developing tools and models for helping create these decision support systems, but we're kind of using the old-fashioned way of working together, and there is a completely new approach that's available to us through this collaborative web technology and the cloud and all that we're not utilizing in the conservation community yet. So that's a straw man problem statement.
Did you mean a problem statement for the collaboratory or for the decision support system?
Either. So I understand the collaboratory's purpose is to bring people together to talk, but I don't understand what we're talking about. I mean, what's the issue that we're trying to get at through are we developing a decision support tool system or an SDSS or whatever you call it? Or are we just bringing people together to talk about their various tools, how they developed and implemented them?
That's where a discussion about the focus, the client for this, the collaboratory and the tool, I think would help, frame that discussion.
Okay, right.
Because I mean, the idea that that the Earth is in trouble is so broad, and even the word conservation is so broad. Then your user group is going to be so broad. There's just I think a discussion about who would actually really enjoy and whose work would be enhanced by being a part of the collaborative. Who is that person, and who are those people?
Right.
I think all these questions are really good, and I think part of it gets back to the whole purpose and reason for developing the decision support system in the first place and what it will do for people who are doing conservation planning and various kinds of landscape planning. And so that needs to be a part of the answer.
Wait, can you say that again, Jerry?
Just, I think part of the answer to both Christina and Tom's question is understanding, why the development of this model is significant and how it differs and improves upon some other models. Why it's useful. We need to bring people together around this tool because of its utility and its benefits for people who are doing conservation planning and other kinds of landscape planning.
Right, absolutely. I think that I'm leaning towards that being our tight concentric circle area. Like when I first started, as Janice knows, I don't think everybody knows, the whole conceptualization of this collaboratory started when I was developing this particular tool and realizing, wow, this particular tool, if I release it open source, it can really grow and people can add to it and build on it. And so the original vision of the collaboratory was for tool development, for building the tool and having it grow. And so since then, we've had a whole bunch of other ideas on how to of broadening the scope and what could happen. And just given our capacity, I'm personally leaning towards that original vision and original goal, and then allowing it to grow from there. But we'll see, and then also there's the change too. At one point, I don't know, but Christina, I mean, I think that's really spot on in the fact that we really need to clarify that, and and I think we've been talking about that in a lot of different capacities. So really great food for thought. I'll be turning that around in my mind and over the course of the next month, and we can maybe what I'll do is the next conference call I can present an updated straw man and see what you guys think. The updated straw man attempts to answer these questions that you've posed and incorporate some of these ideas. And then in the meantime, please please contribute towards that straw man in any way, just via online post on the discussion board, and from there, so just so everybody's clear on where to go for this kind of stuff. I think that one of the best ways to log into the site, my favorite, is just to go to the dashboard, and then when you're in the dashboard, you have all